Cheddar. It is one of the most consumed cheeses in the world, and it comes from a village in Somerset, England, where it has been made since at least the 12th century. The process involves a step called cheddaring, where the curds are stacked and turned repeatedly to expel moisture and develop structure. What makes cheddar interesting is how much it changes with age. A young cheddar is mild, smooth, and slightly elastic. Leave it to mature for a year or two and it becomes sharper, drier, and develops small crystalline pockets that add a subtle crunch. The longer it ages, the more complex the flavor becomes. Mozzarella. It originated in southern Italy, traditionally made from the milk of water buffaloes in the Campania region. Fresh mozzarella has a soft, wet texture and a mild, milky flavor that pairs naturally with tomatoes and olive oil. The cheese is made through a process called pasta filata, where the curds are stretched and pulled in hot water until they become smooth and elastic. The low-moisture version, which is firmer and drier, was developed later for practical reasons and became the standard choice for pizza because it melts evenly without releasing too much liquid onto the dough. Brie. It comes from the Île-de-France region and has been considered a luxury cheese in France for centuries. The rind is soft and white, formed by a specific mold that develops on the surface during aging. Beneath it, the paste becomes increasingly runny and rich as the cheese matures. A perfectly ripe brie is almost liquid at the center and carries a buttery, earthy flavor with a faint mushroom quality. It is a cheese that rewards patience, as eating it too early, before the interior has fully softened, means missing most of what makes it worthwhile. Parmesan. The full name, Parmigiano Reggiano, is protected by law in Italy, meaning only cheese produced in specific provinces under strict conditions can carry that label. It is aged for a minimum of 12 months, though many wheels go much longer, sometimes 3 years or more. The extended aging draws out moisture and concentrates the flavor dramatically. The result is a hard, granular cheese that is intensely savory, slightly nutty, and breaks into irregular shards rather than slicing cleanly. A single small piece carries more flavor than a much larger portion of younger cheese, which is part of why it is used so often as a finishing element rather than a main ingredient. Gouda. The Netherlands has been producing this cheese for hundreds of years, and it remains one of the most exported cheeses in the world. Young Gouda is semi-soft and mild with a smooth, slightly sweet quality. As it ages, it transforms significantly. The texture firms up, the color deepens to amber, and a complex caramel-like flavor emerges alongside the saltiness. Aged Gouda develops the same kind of crystalline texture found in long-matured cheddars, and some wheels are left for 2 years or more to develop a deeply concentrated, almost toffee-like richness that is quite different from what most people expect when they hear the name. Roquefort. It is one of the oldest known cheeses in the world, with written references dating back over 1,000 years. Made exclusively from the milk of Lacan sheep and aged in the natural limestone caves of Combloux in southern France, Roquefort carries a sharp, tangy, intensely salty flavor that is unlike most other cheeses. The blue-green veins running through it come from a specific mold, Penicillium roqueforti, which is introduced during production and develops during the aging process. The caves provide a unique environment of constant humidity and natural ventilation that cannot easily be replicated elsewhere, which is why the geographic protection on this cheese matters so much. Gruyere. Switzerland produces it, and it plays a central role in some of the most well-known dishes in European cooking. Fondue and French onion soup both depend on Gruyere for the way it melts, smoothly and completely, without becoming greasy. The flavor is nutty, slightly sweet, and carries a gentle earthiness that becomes more pronounced with age. It is made in large wheels and aged in cellars, where it is regularly turned and rubbed with brine. A wheel of Gruyere can weigh over 25 kilograms, and the production process is labor-intensive enough that quality control remains closely tied to individual cheesemakers rather than industrial methods. Camembert. It shares some visual similarities with Brie, but the two are distinct products. Camembert comes from Normandy in northwestern France and was reportedly formalized as a recipe in the late 18th century. It is smaller than Brie, traditionally made in individual rounds rather than large wheels, and the flavor tends to be more assertive, with a stronger earthiness and a slightly more pungent aroma as it ripens. The soft white rind is edible and becomes more flavorful as the cheese matures. At its peak, the interior is nearly molten, while the rind holds everything in place, and the two elements eaten together create a balance the cheese was essentially designed around. Feta. Greece has been making this cheese for a very long time, and it holds a protected designation of origin in the European Union, meaning only cheese made in specific Greek regions from local sheep milk or a blend of sheep and goat milk can legally be called feta. It is a brined cheese stored in salt water, which gives it a distinctly salty, tangy character and a crumbly texture that holds its shape rather than melting. The flavor varies depending on whether it leans more towards sheep or goat milk, with the former producing something richer and creamier. It is a foundational ingredient in Greek cuisine and has become one of the most recognized cheeses globally. Emmental. The large holes are what most people recognize first. These gaps, sometimes called eyes, form during the aging process when specific bacteria produce carbon dioxide gas, which gets trapped inside the developing wheel and creates the characteristic openings. Emmental comes from Switzerland and has a mild, slightly nutty flavor that is approachable and versatile. It is one of the cheeses often referred to generically as Swiss cheese, particularly in North America. The wheels are enormous, often weighing close to 80 kilograms, and the aging process typically lasts several months. Despite its mild reputation, a well-aged Emmental has considerably more depth than its popular image suggests. Manchego. It is Spain's most internationally recognized cheese, made from the milk of Manchega sheep in the La Mancha region of central Spain. The rind carries a distinctive woven basket pattern, an imprint left by the traditional molds used during pressing. Young Manchego is semi-soft and mild, with a clean, slightly buttery flavor. As it ages, the texture becomes firmer and drier, and the flavor develops a pleasant sharpness with a lingering richness. It is a cheese that works equally well on its own, paired with quince paste, or sliced alongside cured meats. The sheep's milk gives it a quality that is noticeably different from cow's milk cheeses of similar texture. Ricotta. It is technically a byproduct of cheesemaking. The name means recooked in Italian, and the process involves heating the leftover whey from other cheese production until proteins rise to the surface and are skimmed off. The result is soft, white, and mildly flavored, with a texture somewhere between cream cheese and cottage cheese. It is used extensively in Italian cooking, both in savory dishes like lasagna and stuffed pasta, and in desserts like cannoli and cheesecake. Because it is made from whey rather than whole milk curds, it is lower in fat than most cheeses, though full-fat versions made from whole milk also exist and are noticeably richer. Halloumi. It comes from Cyprus and has a property that sets it apart from nearly every other cheese. Because of its high melting point, halloumi can be grilled or pan-fried directly without losing its shape. The exterior takes on char marks and a golden crust, while the inside becomes soft and slightly squeaky. It is made from a mixture of sheep and goat milk, sometimes with cow's milk added, and is stored in brine, which contributes to its saltiness. The texture when eaten raw is dense and rubbery, which is why heat transforms it so dramatically. Its ability to hold up to direct cooking made it an especially popular choice in vegetarian and plant-forward cooking over the past 2 decades. Cottage cheese. It is one of the simplest cheeses to make, and one of the least processed. Fresh curds are cut, drained, and mixed with a small amount of cream or milk, resulting in a loose, lumpy texture and a very mild, slightly tangy flavor. It has been produced in home kitchens for centuries across many cultures, and the name likely reflects how common it was for small households to make it using leftover milk. Nutritionally, it is high in protein and relatively low in fat, which contributed to its popularity as a diet food in the 20th century. More recently, it has seen a revival as a versatile ingredient in cooking, used in both sweet and savory preparations. Colby. It was developed in the United States, specifically in Colby, Wisconsin, in the late 19th century. The process is similar to cheddar, but a key difference occurs during production when cold water is added to the curds, which washes away some of the acid and lactose and results in a milder, moister final product. Colby does not sharpen the way cheddar does with age, and it is typically sold young. The texture is semi-soft and springy, and the flavor is gentle enough to appeal to people who find sharp or aged cheeses too intense. It is often paired with Monterey Jack in the commercially popular blend known as Colby Jack.